In this video, I'm going to look at some demo code for a simple JavaScript looking at some mouse events. So I'm going to have an image. I'm going to do the sort of mouse over and the mouse out events and have functions associated with them. Okay, so here is a link. I have this HTML, and then it uses this file .jpeg, so I have them at the same location. Let me close up the Explorer so I get a little bit more room. Here's a link to the code for this, the HTML and the file. And here is the page. I have this image twice. I have a little div and then an image. And then if I put my mouse over the image, it becomes bigger, and so does the font size of the div above. And if I my mouse leaves that area, then it goes back. And in the other one, I just have added a filter to the image so that it's reversing the light and dark. All right, so I have my usual page, my title to give me my tab, a little bit of styling, the dark red background, the lighter writing color, a header, and here's a div and the image. And here is the onmouseover calling the increase size 1_1 function, and the onmouseout calling another function return size _out. So often these two events sort of work as a team. What if you're over? What if you're not over? If you don't have the out event, you'll make some change and then it will sort of stay. It'll be permanent even when you move outside. But if you want to sort of return to some default, then you have the sort of corresponding entering and leaving event and functions to handle them. You can do some things with just in pure CSS style, cascading style sheet style, when you have the mouse over something. You have a little bit more control in JavaScript, but this is why I have two things, a div and an image, and I'm controlling both of them. And the div I'm controlling precedes the image. So in pure CSS, you can often access a child. So if the image were inside the div, I might have some control over it that way. If it's what we call a sibling, if it's one after the other, but it follows, there's some way to control that in CSS. But it would be hard to get the sort of the preceding thing. It's hard to get in pure CSS. In JavaScript, you have more control, but it's hard to get the parent from the child. You can go down, you can get the child from the parent, but it's hard to go in the other direction. And also in CSS, it's harder to get the thing that came before. It's easier to get the thing that came after. So that's part of the reason. And I just wanted to show you these events, and that, it's nice that there's another way to do some things you want to do in style and not have to bring out JavaScript for that. But my goal is to show you JavaScript. So here we go. So I have the image each image has an on mouse out and then an on mouse over and on mouse out when you come in and when you leave with your mouse. So I am taking, here is the function called by being the mouse over the first image, and I am accessing the div, which happens to be the above. It could be anywhere on the page. It doesn't have to have any particular relationship in JavaScript, so long as I can access it by its ID. That's what makes it sort of more powerful than CSS. And so I'm taking this div I'm getting its style, changing its font size to 1.2 times this sort of standard letter size. So I'm making my font size bigger, and I am also making my image bigger. Now, I worked with the old-fashioned width of the image, and I could also work with the style.width of the image. And if I was working with the style.width of the image, then the 600 would need the unit pixels and would probably be in quotes. So the width of an element is an older attribute, and you don't put in units, and it's just a number, so I can just say equals 600. If I worked with style.width, which is another way to change the size, then that would need a unit, presumably pixels, and then would need quotes around it. Okay, so an increase size _1 is the function called by when you're putting the mouse over, and then when the mouse leaves the image, then I'm calling the second function where I'm returning the font size to 1em and the width to 500. So again, if I don't have both functions, it would increase in size and just sort of stay put. And the only thing I did on the second one was to add the style filter of the image. So it's an image in more modern HTML5 and CSS. There is a filtering you can do to an image, and I did the invert, so inverting all of the colors, which will invert the black and the white. And so I'm applying a filter, I'm applying the invert filter, I'm applying it 100%, so that completely replaces white with black and black with white. And then and that was on the second image. And then on the return, I apply the filter, this time with 0%. So just like one more thing. I could do any number of things in here, console logs and pop-up alerts and change font colors, any number of things I could do. But this was just enough to show you these two events, the functions they call, and that they sort of work as a team. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you. Thanks much for your attention.